Facebook Live.
We are now live.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Judy Mark. I am the president of Disability Voices United, which is a partner in a statewide coalition called Disability Vote California. We are over 40 organizations throughout the state of California who are making sure that people with disabilities have access to voting and have the accommodations they need and have the support they need to be able to vote, as well as we focus on individuals with their families and the professionals in our field. So before we get started, I'm going to ask Lorna Silva, our interpreter, to tell folks how they can find, how they can get Spanish translation or Spanish interpretation.
Para las personas que hablan español, llamen al 551-241-6310. De nuevo, 551-241-6310. No se necesita código de acceso para acceder a la interpretación al español. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to tell everybody that you should, if you would like to share this webinar with others, you can share it on Facebook by going to the Disability Voices United Facebook page and going to, which I'm not trying to do, and for some reason not able to do it. And you can share it on there. So let's see, not able to share for some bizarre reason. Okay. All right, we'll try it when other people are speaking. We'll try to make that happen. All right, so welcome everybody. We have a really amazing webinar for you that we are entitling, we are entitling How to Help People with Disabilities Vote. It's about supported decision-making and voting. And we have experts in this field, as well as self-advocates who we're going to speak to about giving them support to voting. And we're really, really so happy. I definitely want to welcome Marie, and I definitely want to welcome Emmanuel. If I could ask Ed to change Marie's name. She's also, we have many Emmas right now. So we could change Emma's name to Marie. We'll do that for you, Marie. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
And we have really great experts today. So we normally start with the Why I Vote segment, but this really, this whole segment is about why people should be voting. So we're really, really happy to have you. So the first person I'd like to introduce, I'm actually introduce two people. The first one is Suzanne Bennett Francisco, who is a staff member at Disability Voices United and is really an expert on supported decision-making. She's the co-director of our Supported Decision-Making California Advocacy Project, as well as Emma Ehrenmark, who, oh, by the way, Suzanne is a parent of 3 people with disabilities, 2 of which are over 18, right, Suzanne, and who will be voting, probably in their first presidential election. She is joined by Emma Erenmark, who will also be voting in her first presidential election. And she is the sibling of a person with a disability and is leading this effort for Disability Vote California. So I'm going to let you all take it away.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm going to do my best here to share screen. So let's see.
Click present on the right side next to share.
Thank you. This is a different software that I'm used to. So we're here today to talk about supported decision-making and share with you what that is, supported decision-making and voting. So supported decision-making is something that we all do. We all reach out and ask for support when we need help with things. And so sometimes we reach out to a mentor or a doctor, a mechanic, to ask for the expertise and help that we need so that we can make the right decision. So just like us, people with disabilities use supported decision-making and choose chosen supporters to help make decisions. So those supporters are often family members, friends, staff or professionals, and those supporters are there to help them understand, consider, and communicate decisions. So supported decision-making is designed to change as life changes. And before I get to that, I just want to say that when we use supported decision-making, neurotypical people, we are seen as wise. And really, we're here to talk about supported decision-making and how people with differences can also be seen as wise for asking for the support they need and be able to vote and make decisions in their life. So supported decision-making is designed to change with life. And we're going to give you some resources at the end on supported decision-making, and there are tools there that can help you define which life areas the person needs support in and how they can pick people and get started with having team meetings. So what does supported decision-making look like? The supporter, first of all, the individual asks for the support that they need, and if they're not able to ask for the support that they need, the supporter is making sure that they have the tools and communication systems they need to ask for what they need. So we're there to help explain choices so that people understand and provide examples from their life and consider all the options. And so really, when we say a trusted, chosen supporter, it's important that the person is someone they connect with, that knows that person very well, and can help them access the information that they need in a way that works for them. So it's our job to empower them to make choices in a way that works for them using pictures, words, or voices, and to be patient and to respect all choice making and presume competence. So we talk a lot in supported decision-making about people being able to make decisions to the maximum of their unique abilities. And there are very few people on this planet that can't, express some kind of preference. And so as a supporter, it's our job to really empower them to be able to make those choices. And Emma, I apologize. I'm used to presenting by myself and I cannot see here which slide you're supposed to be.
I'll just jump in when it's my turn.
Thank you. Please jump in. I apologize.
No worries. So,
and there's just real quick, there's been a request by the Spanish interpreter that we speak slowly, please.
okay.
Thank you.
That's a good thing for me to remember. So how does supported decision-making, such as what Suzanne already discussed, how does that relate to voting? Now, supported decision-making is something that can be applied to all aspects of life in whatever personal decisions someone makes. And voting is one of those personal decisions. Voting, it can be complicated, and I personally use supported decision-making when I vote. There are a lot of complicated and sometimes random issues on the ballot that I don't know much about, and that's why I ask my parents, people around me, friends and family for their advice and further information to make sure that I am the most informed voter I can be. And that is okay. And that is the same situation for people with disabilities and how they vote. So your task as a supporter is to make sure that the individual with a disability has the most, go back one slide.
Go back one.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm still on this one. I'll let you know when I want to have the next slide. So your responsibility as a supporter is to make sure that the individual has all the information that anyone else would be getting in the way that they would understand. The issues that are the issues on the ballot are not always in plain language and are not always understandable for everyone, not just for people with disabilities, and that if people need it, they should have the tools and the voting materials be explained in the way that they understand. So there are, you can explain the issues on the ballot with a variety of tools that I'm going to be talking about in the next couple slides. for example, plain language and simplified explanations and materials on the issues can be a great way for everyone to understand what they're voting on, instead of voting blindly or not really thinking through what they're voting on. Visuals is another great way to explain concepts in a way that can be more accessible and can be easier to look at than if a page with lots and lots of words can be very intimidating, and visuals makes that a little less intimidating. It's important to keep this at the front of your brain, that you are not telling them how to vote, you are just guiding them and telling them and giving them information that they need to make an informed decision. You are not telling them this is their vote, you have your vote, you have one vote that is yours, and they have one vote that is theirs. And make sure that they are voting, even if it's different than what your belief is, make sure that it's what they want, but still giving them information that they need. Okay, next slide. So first, I'm going to start talking about the tools and tips that we have created that can help you as a supporter talk about voting in a way that makes people with disabilities understand the issues to the best that they can. So the way that we recommend getting started is ask them some questions to get their brain thinking. What is important to them? Now, if you know them well, you probably already know some things that are important to them, but have them explain it. It could be something like having a job, having a house, having friends and family, a certain type of food. For my brother, it's Disneyland and Disney characters. That's important to him. And it's important to me too, because I love Disneyland. So Marie's shaking her head. So first, thank you, Fernando. First, talk to them about what's important to them. Then transition into talking about their life and maybe some ways that it can be improved. Maybe they want to study something else. Maybe they want to get a different job or get promoted in the job that they have. Maybe they want to move into a different house or live in a different area. Or they want more friends or have more opportunities to have fun. I definitely want that. So ask them about kind of what ways can they see their life improving, and try to the best of your ability to transition that into the government and how voting and government can make this a reality for them. That when there's more funding for the disability community, there's more money for them to get a larger house or to get a house in a different place, or to get a job, and that they're focusing on the disability community more. The government is the way that that's going to happen for them, and make sure that they know that. And just something that applies to everyone, not just people with disabilities. But voting is self-empowerment. Voting is a way for you to take control of your life. I want this, so I'm going to vote for the candidate I think is going to give me that. Whether that be relating to race or gender or disability, whatever it is, vote for the candidate that you think, or the policy that you think will get their life to the best to what they have talked about. Okay, next one. So here are some more tips that can be really great. So the first one is relate issues on the ballot to their interests. Now I'm going to go on a little example for my brother, whose favorite Disney character is Roger Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I want to talk briefly about an example. Is you can say Roger Rabbit, if you've ever seen that film, at the beginning of the movie, he's not treated very well by the movie studio that he works for. There's pots and pans in his face, and he's getting injured, and no one really seems to care, right? So and taking that idea and applying it to one of the propositions on the ballot this year, which is the Affirmative Action Prop 16 proposition. So you can explain that by saying, Roger Rabbit is someone that was not treated well and in the beginning of the film, and he wants to get a new job. And when he's applying for that job, should the new movie studio know that he wasn't treated well in his first job? So that's tying something that my brother is passionate about, he's passionate about Roger Rabbit, and applying it to the issues on the ballot. There's always a way to apply it. And that people with disabilities are very passionate about a lot of things. And you can use those passions to explain complicated issues on the ballot. As well, be patient and check for understanding. Make sure that these are such complicated and difficult issues for me, for everyone. I just finished a proposition sheet. It took me days to understand only a few of the propositions. Know that this isn't going to be easy, and make sure that they're understanding what you're saying. You can say to them, do you understand? If you don't understand, do you want me to explain differently or slower or something like that? Connect with other supporters and have fun and get creative. The more interested the individual is, I think the more fun the experience will be for everyone involved. And explain how the ballot affects their life, similar to what I was saying before. People with disabilities intersect in a lot of different policy issues related to race and gender and police brutality and employment and education. There's so many different policy issues that affect the disability community. There are so many opportunities to explain what the issues, how the issues on the ballot relate to their lives. Next one. I think this is me. This is me, sorry. So here's a couple others. So here attached, if you want to go to the, click on that. This is what I just finished, the proposition sheet on just a few of the propositions, 5 of the propositions, that explains information about what the proposition is about, but also talks a little bit about how these propositions relate to the disability community and how it's going to affect them. This is a great tool that you can use when you are talking to your loved one about propositions, and that if you or your loved one doesn't really understand something, you can go back and look at sheets. So there's not just this sheet, but a lot of plain language, understandable voting resources out there that they can use. Then you, and that is especially if you as a supporter may be unclear on some of the issues or some of the candidates, that you can go and tap into those resources. Okay, you can go back. So using not just that resource, but lots of resources. Some other tips are talking slowly, repeating something that may be complicated. I do that in when I'm reading complicated language, that reading something more than once can be helpful, and rereading and thinking about it over many days, because there's some propositions that I never really thought about what I would vote on, or what opinion I would take. That some of these things you should need to start talking about it now, so that your loved one can be prepared to vote in the coming weeks. That this is something that I've thought long and hard about the propositions on that resource sheet, and I'm still undecided on a lot of them because they're very complicated, and it's sometimes hard to know what you think about them. Okay.
So accommodations for voters. Do you want me to review this, Emma?
Yes.
Okay. So accommodations for voters, when you register to vote, you can sign in many different ways. For instance, a mark or a cross or a signature stamp. And you want to make sure that when the person votes by mail, that they sign the outside of the envelope. It's really important to do that. If you don't sign it, they will return it to you, but we don't want to have your vote delayed. And what they do is they match your signature with the envelope. So I helped Marie, who's going to be talking later, to register to vote. And when you do that, you can click a little box that says accessible materials. And California is brilliant because up pops this little box that asks you to fill in the contact information for your supporter. So in our case, we had a mailing address, we had our home address, and then we put in the contact information for the supporter as well. more accommodations. So when you're completing the registration form, you're allowed to have reasonable accommodations suited to your particular needs when voting. And if you feel like you're experiencing something that looks like discrimination, you can always call Disability Rights California, and this is the Voting Hotline. And they have lots of resources and people who have been working on voting for years with people with disabilities. So they're a wonderful place to contact. I believe this is my slide, yeah? Thank you. This is the first time Emma and I are leading together, so it's exciting. And we're both family members, so we're both very passionate about supported decision making. So voting and conservatorship. A conservatee can still have the right to vote even if they are conserved. There isn't an automatic loss of voting. There's a separate box that they have to check to take someone's voting rights. So in many cases, many people who are conserved have the right to vote, and they may or may not understand that. So what you can do is, if you're conserved, you can ask your conservator, or you could also ask your regional center case manager, and there's a form that they can look at in the paperwork that will say whether or not you're able to vote. So in California in 2016, they passed something that was really helpful to people that assumes that you can vote. You are presumed competent to vote unless there's an assessment done that says, you know, there's clear and convincing evidence the person cannot even communicate the desire to vote. And they do have to consider reasonable accommodations. So if you're able to vote with reasonable accommodations, then that's your right to vote. So many people don't know this, and we're really excited to empower people that we know, including some people who are going to be talking later. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And this is the Autism Self-Advocacy Network, Your Vote Counts. This is a wonderful resource. I've been using it with Marie, and we're going to be talking later. And it has visuals and plain language. So I'm going to let you take a look at it here. So it's lengthy, but it's broken up into sections. And what we've been doing is meeting once or twice a week for like an hour, and we go through one or two of these sections. So it's actually really ideal because sometimes people don't know where to start. And there are visuals in each section. Words to know, part 1 about voting. And as you can see, it's very simple, plain language with a visual. And so we go through very patiently, and you know, you can read it for them. You can ask them if they want to read it. So we've been switching back and forth. Sometimes that can be harder for the person. So this has been really empowering and effective in my support of Marie, and she really appreciates it. So I really encourage you to access that. You want to?
Yeah, so this is, Amy asked how we can get these, how everyone can get these resources. We can either put them in the chat if, Suzanne, you want to do that, or we can send this entire PowerPoint out after the webinar. We can do both of them as well, because we want to make sure that you're getting all this information.
We can post this, well, first of all, we're going to have the webinar recording posted on the Disability Vote California website, as well as we can have the slideshow posted as well.
Great.
Would you like me to click on it?
Yeah. Can you click on the League of Women Voters?
Yes.
So this is what I used a lot when I was writing my Disability Vote California's proposition guide. This is a really great, pretty plain language for the most part. Sometimes it's complicated, but better than a lot of other resources, talking about all of the propositions. I recommend you read it as a supporter, you study it hard, and I recommend that you show this to your loved ones. And there's not just about the propositions, but about a lot of other information. Yeah, you can go back. We'll share all of these links because these are all really great resources as well. You don't have to click on it, or actually you can. The Disability Vote California website, There's a lot of amazing, amazing resources. I don't know if Christian's on this webinar, but he set up this website, and it is a great website filled with a lot of important information about disability and voting. Yeah, you can check that out. It's just disabilityvoteca.org. And lastly, these are a lot of other supported decision-making resources that we don't have to go through, but we will make sure that you have all of these links, and you're able to look at these after the webinar.
I do want to mention that if you're unfamiliar with supported decision-making, I really encourage you to start by going to the UC Davis Mind Institute. They have a series of 5 videos, and it talks about supported decision-making. It's got doctors and attorneys and self-advocates, and they give examples of how to practice supported decision-making in your life. So, and then these are 2 national websites, and then of course we have our Disability Voices United supported decision-making website. I think that's it for now. We're going to have Darlene Hansen, who's an AAC specialist, share with us as well.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. I want to move on now, but I want to tell everybody who's listening that if you have a question, the best way to ask a question is not to put it in the chat just because it's hard because the chat moves quickly. If you have a question for anybody, you can put it in the Q&A. If you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see the letters Q and A and 2 little thought bubbles, and you can ask your questions through that, and I will relay them to the folks who are our panelists. All right, so moving on, I want to now introduce Darlene Hansen, who's the other half of our supported decision-making project here at Disability Voices United. Darlene is also a speech and language pathologist and really specializes in working with people with autism who are non-speaking or minimally speaking. She's also the co-director of the Supported Decision-Making California Advocacy Project for DVU. So thank you for joining us, Darlene.
Thanks. I have a PowerPoint as well, it's a short one here. And I really want you to think about this in terms of, this is kind of like the add-on. So it's not that, oh, AAC users don't do what Suzanne and Emma just spoke about. It's the add-on, okay? They're the big umbrella. And I wanted to give some points because sometimes we think that our AAC users aren't going to be able to participate in such a thing. So I'm going to share my screen. You won't be able to see me anymore, but that's okay. I'll keep talking. Oh, wait, I did it wrong. Hang on. Let's see. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
We can see it, but it's not playing.
I can see you too, so.
Okay, then that's not it. Hang on. Sorry about guys. Sorry. One second. I don't know. I'm going to do it.
Share screen. It was good enough, though. I mean, it worked.
Okay, I'm just going to do it the funky way, and you're going to see weird stuff, but you'll see my PowerPoint. Okay, guys?
Okay.
Here we go, I think. All right, there we go.
Works. And we can see you too. We can see your picture.
I know, but it's not. Okay, anyways, so you use AAC and vote, okay? And I gotta get my button for forwarding. All right. So again, going back to what Suzanne and Emma were talking about, presuming competence, this is something that a friend of mine who uses AAC wrote. When we think about what is presuming competence, it means growing with the assumption that I can understand and comprehend what is said to me, and giving and believing I am capable of doing things without lessening expectations. So I think it's really important for us to remember that our AAC users, as well as anybody that we're talking about here who has a developmental disability or intellectual difference, we need to presume that they understand, that they have an opinion on this subject, and sometimes they just need, like Emma was saying, just need help understanding what the concept is. But quite frankly, as Emma said as well, most of us do enlist the help of our friends to say, what the heck are they talking about? Especially when they get into the double negatives, right? So your role as a support person or a communication partner for the AAC user, I mean, this goes for anything, but you need to be a trusted, chosen person But you also have to be prepared with a communication system. And I'm going to give you some examples of what you could maybe do on that level. As I said before, use plain language. But when you're using a programmed or created something you created, an AAC system that you put together or somebody else professionally put together, make sure you have both sides of the story available, because sometimes we only want to say the positive things and program the positive things on a person's communication device, and then they don't have an option. There's no way to ask a question. So here's a sample board that I created that might be useful when talking to, for sure when you're talking with a person who uses AAC, but it might be useful for talking with anybody about this topic. So you've got your typical yes, no on there, but you've got I agree, I disagree. I think this is important. So maybe some features they might say, you know, some propositions they might say, oh, I think this is an important one. Or if you go down here, they might say, I think this is ridiculous. Okay, because sometimes we have those kinds of opinions on the propositions. As you're having a conversation and you're asking the person if they understand, you want to make sure they have an opportunity to ask a question. Now you can't put all the questions in there because it's going to be too cumbersome, but you're a part of this conversation. That's not cheating, that's not influencing, that's just having a conversation. So if you're talking to me about a proposition that has to do with, as Emma was talking, I think it was 16 or 15, and talking about the laws regarding, what is it? I can't think of the words, but anyways, the people who get I'm blocking. It wasn't on my script.
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action. I'm like, I had all kinds of A words in my head and that was not them. Okay. You might say, they might say who, and then you can go, oh, who's it about? Oh, it's about you in this way, or it's about Uncle Joe in that way, or it's about, and start personalizing it. Or they might say when, because it gets kind of confusing. When did that go away? Or when do they want to start this, right? That part's kind of confusing in that proposition. So don't get concrete about it. If they say when, go with it. What are they talking? If you're talking about that proposition, it has some timelines. It talks about history and how California changed it. So when is a perfect question to ask on that proposition, right? You might say, they might want to say, explain this more to me. Or they might want to say, skip it. Okay, the reality is all of us skip some of them, right? I don't get this one. All right, let's go back on that. So creating a board that kind of allows for them to tell you what they need information-wise from you in order to get more clarification. So that goes into explaining the choices so that they understand, use picture, words, or voice. And Suzanne and I were talking about this the other day, and it's not pictures as in I can't read pictures, because you can read it to them. It's the pictures need to be available so I can talk to you about it. Okay, the reading part is just the reading of it. I can read it till I mean, sometimes you read them 5 times and you still don't understand it. I need, the vocabulary needs to be about the discussion points, okay? So make your examples relatable, like Emma was talking about. Provide examples and consider all options, as we talked about, and include the person in the conversation. Got that. You want to stay neutral. You want to go through the ballot. Take your time on this. Some people have shorter attention spans or shortened patience levels or shorter amounts of time available. So take your time on that. Remember that you're part of the conversation, but keep it open, okay? So be open to the fact, and this is really hard for some of us, you know, the fact that they're going to disagree with you, or they're going to say skip it, and you're like, no, this one's very important for you. You know, just don't be like in charge that way. Provide information where requested, and as we mentioned, you must record what the communicator wants, even if it's a different opinion. Okay, this is their vote, not your vote. So again, going back, using a board like this, and I'm happy to share this board with you all, but really this might not be the target stuff that your person needs. Okay, so it's a framework to just say think outside of the typical box that you're used to, but your person might need different kinds of words on their communication board. When I'm making up a communication board, I tell people, be like a screenwriter. Like if you were being both parts, what would you need to say right here? Okay, think of it that way. So I can share that, but how do you vote? again, AAC users, you guys get to vote just as much as a speaking person. That's your right just as much. So you got to register. Think about if you're going to do mail or vote in person. You know, mail-in is something that I generally think is a good idea. I mean, I do the mail-in myself, but if you're going to need time and processing time to get yourself organized, you might want to for sure do the mail-in. And this year that's a lot easier for sure, but has a whole different definition to it. But I think it's probably a good idea. That's just my opinion. You don't have to. Go through the ballot, ask questions when you don't understand. And remember, and please, communication partners, remind people, you get to skip them. If you don't know who that judge is, just skip it, okay? Unless you're gonna research it. So most importantly, vote, read the directions before voting, as Suzanne spoke, get your signatures the right way, and listen and watch to as many things as you can to learn more about all the different angles that they impact us. Don't, you know, all the commercials, all the conversations, all the debates. Try and spend some time with that if you can tolerate it. And that's mine.
Sorry, I'm using this new computer monitor and I'm gotta figure it out. All right, thank you so much, Darlene. That was amazing. Like, I actually would like to walk around with that that board, and when I don't want to talk to certain people, and just be like, you're annoying me, or this is ridiculous. Like, I just want to point to this. I'm definitely going to print that out. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
In fact, we should get a t-shirt with that on ours, so that we just like point to the different things. So like, talk to the hand, point to this. Okay.
That gets kind of risky.
Yeah.
I don't recommend t-shirt.
This is Hector. I think we need that as a recommendation for the presidential debates.
Yes, the
you know,
next
they're considering
debate.
some alternatives.
It's a
paddles.
non-presidential
Paddles.
debate. You must point to a letterboard.
Yeah.
People will like that better. Thank you so much, Darlene. That was fantastic.
You're welcome.
I'd now like to introduce Hector Ramirez, who is a self-advocate and also on the California Health and Human Services Behavioral Health Task Force, and also on the Board of Disability Rights California, and just a pretty amazing kind of guy. Like, that's just all around. And super involved in our community. And what I'd like to know from you, Hector, is like, why is it important? So you're talking to other self-advocates here. Why is it important for self-advocates to get the support they need to vote, and to not just like walk away and say, wow, this stuff is way too complicated for me, or, you know, I just can't do it. And then what advice do you have for supporters, like family members, like professional staff, to say, you know, here's how you can slow it down and make it work for us?
Thank you, gracias, Judy. First of all, I just want to thank you all and just give a brief visual description for those folks on the phone or visual impairment. So my name is Hector Ramirez. I'm wearing a black t-shirt with a colorful N, and it says We're Native. My background is a bunch of voting buttons that say, my student background, it says your vote counts. And so I'm growing my COVID beard, and I have a little bit of a COVID mohawk that I've done at home. And so somebody mentioned Disney earlier, and it triggered. I'm doing some self-care beading for my sister. So I'm beading her Disney cap for when she's able to go back to Disneyland, and practicing my beading to self-care through all this. And I think voting for all of us, especially for people with disabilities in general, is our ultimate right. And one of the ways that we're able to really assert that right to our space is really by casting our vote. And I really appreciate this particular presentation. It's very informative, and I was really fascinated by it. So I was really enthralled by it because I think the concept of making sure that things are presented in a plain language manner is really important. Most oftentimes, anything related to voting or elections or bills is so complicated that for many of us, it takes years of practice and questions and relearning, as I'm doing today, you know, to just find out not only how we cast our vote, why we're casting it, but and what is it that we're voting on, which is really so essential. And as a nonpartisan point of view, from just the debates last night, we know that so much is just on the line. So much is on the line. So I think I recognize my disabled peers by saying that right now our vote matters so much, and for the whole disability community. Before COVID-19, people with disabilities were 1 in 4 in the population. That number has gone up a lot right now. And so our vote is not only the swing vote, but I really think that our vote is really going to be the deciding vote, not only for people with disabilities, but our families and caretakers and all the different people who really are part of our community. Everything from healthcare, being able to make sure that our regional centers and our communities are able to have the funding and support to provide our communities and people with what we need is of course essential. COVID has changed everything that we had before. Here in California, also the fires have also significantly changed a lot for our communities. So we have literally our lives on the line. And I don't mean that really to be over dramatic, but just being to the point. COVID has devastated our communities that are in congregate settings in very tragic ways. Many of us have not been able to go back to work. Many of us who don't have work to go back because of COVID-19. So we are having to not only, reshape our living situations, are worried about our health care, definitely are trying to figure out our financial situations for those of us at work, and even for our family members. We're all in this together. And that also means that as we're all of this together, our vote really has to be counted. And we have to be able to have access to our voting rights and make sure that when we vote, that our vote counts because we're part of this society. As if my shirt is a Native American logo shirt, and in our Native American communities, people with disabilities, we are we actually play a part in society. And I'll speak just for my family, so not speaking for our tribe. It recognizes that one of the purposes that we show is that we show folks that we have to keep going. And I don't mean that as an inspirational kind of issue, but it was a realistic thing. In tribal communities, we were dealing with conditions like many of you are facing right now. We've survived pandemics, genocide, and one of the things that, at least in my ancestors, they would always tell us is that people with disabilities always remind folks that, hey, things are getting worse and we have to keep up going, and we adopt, and everybody counts in our tribal communities. The same thing in society. So just as we're all in this together as a country, as a state, trying to survive this multiple pandemics and everything else, this democracy is based on the fact that every single person counts, and so does our vote. And I think I'm so excited to hear about supportive decision making and how to get accommodations, and what to do when you get to the when you're trying to cast your vote and they won't take it. I had somebody actually tell me one time that when they went to the polling place, there were not accommodations, so the person called 911. And I see that as a crime, not being able to cast your ballot because there's no accommodations. But we also have, our national hotlines with Disability Rights California to ensure that, things are accessible, because people are voting already across the country and in California. So I think, this is really, really important. This is part of self-determination. And this is actually one of the ways that we contribute to society. Nothing is too complex for us not to be invited to participate. First of all, we have a right to participate. And secondly, I recognize that making things accessible for everybody makes it really accessible, not just to people with disabilities, but to everybody else. I, as a person with a disability, have to be explaining the ballots to people all the time. But that also happened because people like everybody else in this group today helped me to understand that. Before, I had no idea at all. That's because nobody bothered to tell me about it, because nobody really thought that my vote mattered. But you guess what? It does. Some elections are lost by a small margin. Some elections for a state are in the balance of just a couple of people. And so if you are able to contribute, to that voting, balance, your vote can actually be the deciding vote. Actually, as a matter of fact, your vote is always part of the deciding vote. So I think that's one of the things that I really want to kind of share. And of course, thank you everybody for this particular space.
Thank you so much, Hector. It's everything that you talked about is so critically important. And we're now about to put what everybody said, what Emma, what Suzanne, what Darlene, and what Hector said, we're about to put it into practice with two individuals with disabilities who are voting. I think, Marie, are you voting for your first time as well? Or your second time?
Yep.
And for Emmanuel, this will be his first election. And so we're now going to model for everybody what it means to practice supported decision making. Because I know people say, oh, my son can't do it, my daughter can't do it, but you can, it can be done. All right, so I would now like to introduce Marie Bergum, who is a self-advocate, who I have never met personally, but I have heard such awesome things about you from Suzanne. I'm so happy and excited that you joined us today. She talks about what an incredible self-advocate you are, how bold you are, and we are so excited to work with you on the election this year. So I'm going to actually give it to you, Marie, and to Suzanne.
Wonderful,
Thank
thank you. I just want to say that I am like Marie Bergum's #1 fan, and she has brightened my day every day for the last like 2 months. She's so excited to vote, and she pursues me, and we set time. So I'm very excited that you're here to share. And do you need me to share screen?
Yes,
yeah?
Can you please?
Yes.
It won't go to my other email. I don't know why.
No worries, no worries. We're gonna find it, I think. Here we go. So I posed some questions to Marie. So I'm gonna read the questions, and we're gonna help Marie answer the questions. So she answered these ahead of time. So what is supported decision-making to you, Marie?
A group of people that helps me make decisions.
Okay, and they help you explain and understand things?
Yeah, they help me read it if I can't have problems of reading.
Wonderful. So how has your circle of support changed since you started using supported decision-making?
Adding more people, and then most of my support helps me by phone or Zoom. I like that my support are
Honest.
Honest. My support press.
RESPECT. We're working on this word.
Oh, yeah.
I love it every time she asks me about it. Respect.
Yeah, respect and listen to me. They cheer me up when I am sad or upset and help me
Cope.
Cope. Yeah, cope. I ask them
When? Are you there, Marie? You might be frozen.
You might be frozen.
Oh no. Well, if you're frozen, we can come back.
You may need to get out and come back in, and we will just wait for her. If you could text her to do that.
Okay, and I'll stop sharing screen. And do you want to come back to her then?
Yeah, we'll come back to Marie. And now we'll go to Emmanuel and Mulugeta.
when I need support too.
Is she still there?
Are you there? I'll tell her.
There you are, Marie. Yay. Okay, we'll keep going.
Are
Sorry.
you back? You were frozen for a minute there.
I think you were frozen, but my picture was there, but you were frozen. That's what,
Okay,
that's what I thought.
I'll share screen again then if you're ready. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see, where did it go? Here we go. So we heard you up to here, that they cheer you up and help you cope.
Yeah. Okay. I ask them when I need support to know how to talk to others.
Okay,
Okay.
and then we asked, why do you vote?
It is my right.
And are you excited to learn about the people you're going to vote for?
Yes, I am.
So I asked her what some of the things are that is important to her, and I have to say that this has been such an enlightening experience because you're brilliant, Marie. And so she shared some of the things that are really important to her, and you want to share with everyone?
Okay. Okay. Have my own rights and make my own decisions. People should make others. Is that others? Yeah, others.
Their own.
Our own decisions. People should be able to live where they want to live. Yeah. Okay. Friends from other countries or what's that? Different. Yeah, different. Okay, let's make that bigger. There we go. Different abilities.
Races.
Races, yeah. Who work hard should be
treated
with respect and be able to stay here. They should have the same right I have. People should be able to pick who they love as a partner and pick religion and able choose other church.
Their church. So that we are a nonpartisan group, and this is what's important to Marie. So this is why she wants to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, and what qualities do you think you want in a president?
What? Oh, sorry. I'm just reading something that I shouldn't read. Press for everyone.
Right. Respect. Right?
Respect for everyone. Yeah. Not lying. Someone faithful to others. Life partner. Right?
So that was important to Marie. And was registering to vote fairly easy to do with help?
Yes, with you. Yes, with you, Susan. Support. It was a little. Why
tricky.
do I always want to? Oh,
it's
yeah,
a tricky word. Tricky.
Tricky. I need help. Okay. Yep.
Okay. And what support have you wanted, needed, or got in order to vote?
Pictures and study guide. I need only or twice a week. Oh, once or twice a week with Susan. Who support with you now?
Who supports you and how?
Oh, my advocate, someone who reads and explains the questions to me.
And is there anything you learned in the process so far?
It's important to think about the right person to vote for. I may not like something about the person. The things are important to me should be important to the person I vote for.
Exactly. And How much time do we have? Judy, do we have a few more minutes?
Yeah, you have a couple more minutes, sure.
Okay, I have some more questions that are more related to supported decision making as well. So just let us know when we're out of time.
Okay.
So what has supported decision making and having chosen trusted supporters, how has that affected your life?
I did talk that much. I didn't talk that much. I was quickly and
Quiet?
quiet and what's
Kept?
kept to myself. Why did it use to that person? They may go away.
And can I just say, I have to interrupt you for a moment, because when Marie isn't reading, she is an avid talker and conversationalist. And so I could not believe when she told me she didn't talk before. I was like, oh my goodness, you've come out of your shell.
I haven't. Help me to know more about a court. With support, I ask my IPP team for services. I have had 2 to 3 jobs, got a way and
An award?
and a raise, right?
Yes.
Raise and was
Offered?
offered a full-time job. I had a
Independent?
independent living services. I asked for support now in budgeting. I decided not to spend my money at what's that word?
Expensive.
Expensive hair salon. Yeah. My healthy decisions, reading, math, boundaries, cooking. I cooked my dad a roast and whole meal for Father's Day by myself with help over the phone. Transportation.
Can I just say that is a really big deal, because Marie used to be really nervous in the kitchen and she created a whole meal over the phone. So many things you've been doing. I'm so proud of you. Anyway, go ahead.
A roast is really hard to make. When I had a problem, never made it in my whole lifetime. I had found a Spanish speaker person to help me and called.
This is when your ride didn't come, so you were out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a long time waiting, huh?
Yeah, Susan to help. A late filled a complaint by myself.
She filed the complaint by herself without even asking for support. I was just like super proud of you, Marie.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to try and scroll down here if my computer's going to work, which
I can't read it, so.
It's not scrolling down. Let me try this one more time. Do we have a few more minutes?
Yeah, just we do. We're okay.
We're almost done.
Okay.
Yeah, we're almost done. Okay, a later filled complete by myself. I am
applying.
Applying to life
to live
in home program.
That's TIL, Toward Independent Living Housing Program, right?
Yeah, that trains people with intellectual I want to say that, but I can't.
It's exceptional differences, right?
Exceptional differences. It's that hard word. I help teach self-advocate class. I advocate for my peers who can't talk or speak.
I'm just going to use my I don't know what's with my scrolling, just stops working. Let's see if I can do this. There we go.
There you go. Come on.
I think
You can
that's
do
it. That's what all you had. Is there something else that you want to say before we go back, Marie, about how you've been feeling about doing supported decision making and voting?
I just want to let everyone, like everyone that doesn't know how to vote, ask for help to vote, because if you don't, then you're gonna be sad because you didn't get to do it. That's what I'm gonna say.
Thank you so much, Marie. I'm so proud of you. Thanks for joining us. It's our pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
That was really, really great. I love that. If you don't vote, you're going to be sad. And pretty much that is very true. If you could stop sharing screen, we're going to move on to Emmanuel. Are you still there? You've been so incredibly patient, Emmanuel.
Yes. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Emmanuel. It's your friend Judy. How are
Hello.
you?
I have a right to be. I mean, you know, this is Emmanuel's first vote, and we are so happy about that. But you know, I took him to a voting booth a couple of times, and you know, he was working a paper, and he's going to read it for us. And at the end, he has a song for us. So go ahead, Emmanuel. Okay, Emmanuel, it's your turn. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Okay, go.
A lot of people doubted me. I have a right to be happy. I have a right to be healthy. I have a right.
Go ahead. No.
To be equal. I have a right to have fun. And
louder. Louder, Dad. No. Okay.
I have a right to be equal.
Okay.
I have a right to have fun. In order to have that, I have to vote when I turn 18.
Okay.
Voting is choosing what
Louder.
you want.
Okay.
I am going to participate in choosing the people in charge of all of the above. You also have to vote for the law which govern you. My officers to the local government, 2 city council members, and Mayor James Blacks, 3 county supervisors, 4 state governors, Governor Newsom, 5 President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Okay. Go ahead and sing the song.
A lot of people doubted me. They laughed in my face. Said there ain't no way I would finish that race, but I kept my head down and laced up my shoes.
Go.
And right now on this planet, there are things that we can fix. There are people going hungry. Can I have it? A lot of them are kids, and it's so unfair. They're scared and all alone.
Go ahead.
And right now on this planet, there are things that we can fix. There are people going hungry. A lot of them are kids, and it's so unfair. They're scared and all alone. Wars are being fought over land and over God, and we need a different plan. Because I think that we forgot that we're all the same. We're just love and blood and bones. Doesn't matter if they think we're wrong. It doesn't matter if they do not understand. Because everything you want, you haven't gotten yet. You can.
Yeah, I mean, it was really kind of rough, but this is one of the songs which inspired us. I might just, post it while he was in really a good mood. That's what he posted. But, voting is very important for everybody. I prepared him the last 3-4 years. And we are trying to use, as Suzanne told us, the visual is really important for us. I have a graphic software. And, he knows how to deal with that. And we are copying and pasting pictures and using this thing to prepare him. The supported decision making, we are so happy to communicate with him. I know that sometimes, you know, he's saying things like, you know, he loves Donald Trump. And, you know, I don't want to just get in that line, but, you know, I'm trying to just, you know, go back again and try to show him, you know, the rights and the wrong, why we have to vote, things like that.
That's really wonderful. You know, I have to say that as a parent, it's, you know, whether you have a child with a disability or not, the views that you have of the world certainly go to your children. I don't know if you know this, but the greatest determinant, the greatest factor of a person's political party is what political party their parents were. It doesn't mean that it happens 100% of the time, but that's more of a determinant than anything else, than your race, than your gender, than where you live. Who your parents were and how they raised you is often what determines what political party you are and what kind of person you are. And so, you know, I think that it's really important to at least accept that. You know, when we talk in supported decision making that we have to be unbiased, we have to let them have their opinion, but that doesn't mean that families can't express their own values, the values that they have, and provide it to their kids. So, you know, if you're a professional who's watching this and you support a staff member, that's different. You're not part of their value system. You're not part of their family. You didn't raise them. But you can certainly talk to them and ask them questions of what's important to them. But as a parent, Mulugeta, you are, the values that you have as a refugee to this country, as a very active member of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church that I have worshiped in, Suzanne has worshiped in, that is an incredible community. Those are values that you need to bring to your son and show him how that plays out in an election. So I think that that's really important. So one of the things that I heard is that Emmanuel hasn't yet registered to vote because this is the first election. And so Emma was going to show you Emmanuel. Emmanuel, do you want to see Emma?
Yeah, Emmanuel.
Do I go now?
No.
She's about your age. Emmanuel, how old are you now?
I'm 19.
You're 19. She's just a little bit older than you. She's 20, about to be 21. So Emma's going to show you how to register to vote, okay?
Honor, when are you going to be 21?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Look.
When are you going to be 21, Emma?
You're muted.
Okay. Did I share screen?
Sure did.
Okay, cool. I'm going to be 21 in like a week, kind of, like October 10th. That's pretty close, huh? Pretty close. Okay, let me share screen. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we want to say, so there's one link that you should go and remember in your brain when you think about registering to vote. Registering to vote means that the government has your name and your information when you go and vote later. So this just means you have to sign up for voting and make sure that you are, that's your first step, okay?
Sign up.
So everyone knows there's lots of different languages. So first, sorry. The website is registertovote.ca.gov.
Can you repeat that thing, Amy?
Yes, registertovote.ca.gov.
All right, got it.
So that is the website you want to go to when
we're going to go to register.
There are lots of languages. There's Spanish. You can register in Spanish. You can register in Hindi, in Chinese, lots of languages. So now we're just going to do English. You put register to vote now because you are more than 18 years old, right?
Yes.
Yes. It's very not that hard, especially when you have help from your mom and dad. So you can say, I am one of the following.
Look, Emmanuel,
U.S. citizen and
Emmanuel, this is the thing what you are going to do on the phone when we go to the site.
So are you a U.S. citizen and do you live in California? Yes?
I muted them, yes.
Yes. So we're not going to go through everything since they do ask personal questions here. But if you are, that means you can vote in California. So you press next. And they want to make sure that you are 18 years old. So you press I am 18 years or older and you are a US citizen. Then you can put your name and your last name, and that's all that's required. You can put other things, when you were born, to make sure that you are 18 years old, where you were born, in what state, or if you were born in another country. Then you put identification. So if you have an ID, if you don't, you put your social security number. And then you put your race and you put your address. And you can either say you may not have a political party, which means which beliefs that you vote for. If you don't, and then you go on. So we're not going to keep after this. It's pretty much almost done. Do you have any questions?
Amy, will it be okay? Do we have to register again if we want to? Go ahead. If you want to, go ahead. If he wants to register again, do we have to do it again or?
No. So you never have to register twice. The only times you should register is if you move house. This is a great way to check if you are already registered.
Okay.
There's another website, very easy, vote.org. That's all it is, vote.org. And it can tell you if you've registered. So you put your name, your last name, your address, date of birth, email, and you say, check your registration, and it will say, yes, you are registered already. You don't have to register. Or no, you are not registered.
All right.
It will give you the address that you are registered at. If it is different than the one you live now, you do need to re-register with your address you live in now. But this is, if you don't know, maybe you registered a long time ago and you don't remember. Vote.org. You go to vote.org. That's it.
Okay. All right. I have a question for Judy. What about other offices? For example, like do we have to just allow them to go through all the different level of government representatives, or for him to just go there and vote, or do we have to start from like our local and then maybe in the near future try to push him to prepositions, things like that?
Yeah. So Emma, if you could stop sharing your screen just for a quick second. So that's an excellent question. So first I want to tell not only Emmanuel, but I want to tell the same thing to Marie and to everybody who's listening, that there is no law that says you have to vote on everything that's on the ballot. There are often a lot of judges that are on the ballot. It's hard to know who to vote for. There's propositions that can sometimes be confusing. If you decide you want to vote, but all you want to do is vote for the president, and that's all you want to do, you can just fill out your ballot, vote for that one office, and send it in. It is absolutely fine. One of the things we've seen that one of the reasons people give for not voting is because the ballots are too complicated. And everybody should know that that's intentional. It is intentional that the people who are in power right now make ballots very complicated, make propositions very complicated. It's intentional because they want to keep the power and they want to keep it away from us as the voters. So that's where we say, you know what? We're going to vote down your proposition because we don't understand what you're saying, or we're not going to vote on these issues that are too complicated and that we know the few that are important to us. So
this is Hector. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Hector.
So this gets me thinking, especially around the issue of plain language. Could we as people with disabilities make an ADA request of for example, here in California, our California secretary who's in charge of the elections, and request from them that they issue both a ballot and the ministry information that they publish for the public in plain language, just like we requested in Braille. Can we request that as an ADA accommodation?
That is an excellent question that we should bring up to Disability Rights California. But Emma, what do you
Yeah,
have?
that's a good question. But I know what I can say is everyone should be getting a ballot that explains and gives both sides. On people who say yes on this proposition, say this. People who say no, say this. That I use that a lot when I was writing the proposition sheet. So, and everyone should be getting that. It's not super plain language, definitely not, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I think that,
Emmanuel, that's too loud.
so Emma talked before about the League of Women Voters Plain Language Voter Guide, it's so great. It's so well done. But even that is confusing to me. I teach at the college level and it's confusing to me. I'm going to give you an example. There's a proposition on the ballot which allows people with disabilities, as well as people whose home has been destroyed in a fire, as well as people over the age of 55, Emma, allows them to move 3 times and keep the same low tax rate that they had before. So one would think, wow, that's going to really lower the tax income for this country, for this state, the property tax income of this state. That could be a problem if what you're looking for is to ensure that we have enough revenue. But the legislation also requires people who inherit a house that is worth more than $1 million and they choose not to live in that house, they have to pay higher property tax rates for that. And somehow with those 2 things in balance, according to the League of Women Voters, there will be an increase in the revenue of the state of California. It's just hard for me to believe, but that's what the state of California evaluated it to be. So that is some of the most difficult things to figure out. One of the ways that I often think about how to vote on complicated issues, and Marie and Emmanuel, you can do this, is think about the people you know and respect in the world, or even, let's say, figures that maybe that you don't know. Like the Los Angeles Times, they endorse propositions, they endorse candidates, or it might be a radio station or somebody in office who's endorsed, like, President Obama has endorsed certain candidates, President Bush has endorsed certain candidates, maybe former presidents have. So who is it that you admire in the world and who do they like? What is their position? And another that's really critical way to think about things is specifically for propositions, is to look at who's supporting the propositions and what are they getting out of it. So remember that proposition I just told you about where it allows people to move 3 times and keep the same low property tax rate? Guess who's sponsoring that? It's the Association of Realtors, the California Association of Realtors. Why would they want that? Why is that something good for them? It's because the more that people move, the more money they make, because they make money on commission every time they sell a house. So maybe they're thinking, oh, older people are not going to move because they don't want to increase their property taxes on their next house. But now this is going to allow them to move and the realtors will make money. So sometimes you have to really look at who's behind a measure to say, and that may be okay. You may be a realtor yourself, or you may like realtors and you support that idea. But the critically important thing is that you think about what your values are, what's important to you, and then apply those values to whoever is backing a proposition, or whoever endorses specific candidates, and that you think about what's important to you and you apply it. So what I wanted to do now, I don't know if Emmanuel is still there, but we can, if he's not, it's okay, because we can actually talk to Marie. So Marie, were you gonna go over one of the propositions in plain language?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
why don't, so Emmanuel and Marie, Emma's gonna talk
Okay.
about one of the propositions and see if
Okay.
you have any questions.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just take it from my sheet. Is that okay? So
Yeah,
that people
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Judy. I just want to say thank you. I'm going to leave too.
Oh, hi, Emmanuel's mom is here as well. We're so happy to have
Yeah,
you.
I am a Manuel's family member, so I was just seeing how they are doing, but just thank you so much for what you do.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, great. We're so happy to have you. Please.
Please tell them it was so good to see them.
Yes, thank you so much.
Go ahead, Emma.
Is Emmanuel still on?
I think no, he's not.
He's muted.
He's muted. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. So should we talk about Proposition 16, the affirmative action one?
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. These propositions, some of them are very complicated. So this one is about something called affirmative action. And here it is defined here. So it says, affirmative action is a practice in which an individual's race, gender, or other status is considered to increase opportunities for an underrepresented group, right? And you can use these resources as a supporter and expand on that as well. So, Marie, when we talk about that, do you have any identity or status that may be in an underrepresented group?
What do you mean? Can you read?
Yes, I'll explain it more. So
Thank you.
underrepresented group means a group that things may be harder for them because they're in that group and for no other reason. So these things include certain racial groups,
Okay. No.
or gender or disability.
Yeah.
So do you fall into any of those categories? Do you identify with any of those things?
Yeah, I really agree with you about that. They should be able to vote and their vote does count and their voice does count.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I'm saying this because I have a friend and yeah, I wish she could vote, but she's told me she couldn't. So it's kind of sad.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you explain what exactly a proposition is?
Yes. Yeah. So a proposition is something that was either from the government or from a bunch of people who voted enough times for it so that the entire population of California is voting about it. So they are not candidates, they are not people, they are certain
representatives.
They're like issues. They're almost like laws.
Are they representatives?
Yeah. So a proposition is different than a representative, Marie. A proposition gives the ability of people, citizens in California, to create laws without using our elected representatives to make those laws. So it's called direct representation, that we are directly voting on laws. In most cases, the vast majority of laws are passed by people that we elect. So they're passed by our state legislature, they're passed by members of Congress at the federal level. But this gives the opportunity for us as Californians to create laws. And some people think we have a lot of chances every year to make these laws. Some people think it's a good idea that we get to make all these laws. Some people think it becomes a problem. But the way that you get these propositions on the ballot is why a lot of people don't love them. The way that you get them on is that you have to get enough signatures, and it's like we're talking like
I know all about
signatures.
That.
People
Is it like you everyone signs a
like a petition?
Yeah, petition. I'm just gonna say something out there. Like, say the ARC signs a petition and sends it to Washington D.C. and says, "Okay, this is what we want," and that's from a program, but they're advocates, so they would advocate for a bunch of people.
Right. So individual California registered voters, you have to be a registered voter, has to sign one of these petitions. Some of you may have seen this when you're at a grocery store. There's people with all these clipboards standing outside the grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
To sign something, right?
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. So they have to get like 1 million people to sign, and sometimes even more than 1 million, because there's a whole bunch of people who sign who may not be registered to vote, so you can't count their signature. So you have 1 million people signing. That is a lot of people. It is hard to get all those people to sign. And so what you end up having is usually really rich people are the ones who get things on the ballot, whether it's a rich person or a rich organization like the California Realtors Association. They pooled their money and then hired people to go out and collect those 1 million signatures.
Wow.
It could also be, there's another piece on the ballot that's about stem cell research. One man who has a child with a significant health issue that he believes benefits from stem cell research, he alone paid the money to get that piece on the ballot. So, and it could cost millions of dollars to get something on the ballot. But for a lot of people, that it's worth it. It's worth spending the $1 million.
Wow. I wish I had $1 million to put something on the ballot.
Yeah. Then you're going to see all these advertisements. If you watch TV nowadays, you're seeing a lot of advertisements on these propositions. So I'm going to have Emma explain what one of them is, called Proposition 16, which is what she was talking about. So these are for individuals. So this is for people who want to hire somebody to work at a public school or in a government agency, or it's part of the admissions if you want to get into college. That what this proposition is saying is that we can take into account the fact of a person's race, so whether they're Latino, whether they're African American, Asian American, their gender, female or male, what their ethnicity, and the country they came from, if they're an immigrant. You can take that into account when you are considering this hiring.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you keep going now?
So that's what affirmative action is. And right now, how it is now, they cannot consider or think about any of those groups that we just talked about. When you are when someone is applying to school or applying for a job that is working for the government or going to a public school, they may not think about if you are of a certain race, a certain gender, a disability, anything. Okay, they just think about you and the application, and that's it. So Prop 16 is wants to change that, and they want to make sure that public colleges and universities and government jobs can think about when someone is applying. Let's say one person is white and one person is black, they can just think, okay, this person's white and this person's black, and that may influence or change which person I'm going to hire or which person I'm going to accept. I can think about that. Now you can't even think about it. So that's what this proposition would change about the world if it passes, if enough people say yes to it.
Yeah.
And Emma, why would they want to have a certain different kind of race and ethnicity when they're thinking about that?
Yeah, so some people would say that a lot of groups, there are some people who have certain statuses here in our country that in the past they were not allowed to vote, not allowed to have a job, this job, and they're not allowed to go to the school. They're not allowed. In the past, they weren't, like, for example, sometimes in the past, women or African Americans, or people with disabilities, they weren't allowed.
Bus. I remember the bus issue, the water fountain, the bathroom. They're a little ridiculous. They're a little ridiculous about that.
Yeah, so there's some groups. If you're not in those groups, you could go to school. If you're not in those groups, you could go and get whatever job you want. So the reason why this is important is because now that we are allowed, maybe we can think about, okay, this person is in this group that in the past they weren't allowed to go to this school. Now they can go, and maybe some people would say they should go to this school now. Some people say that's unfair. Everyone, the only thing that should matter is how much, if you're applying to a job, how much experience you have, or how good you did in school. That's the only thing you should think about. But some people say maybe there's more than that, right?
There is.
Does that make sense, Marie?
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Excellent.
Thank you for explaining it to me.
Yeah. Do we want to continue or leave it at that?
Yeah, we can leave it at that, but we might go back to it because some people may have some questions about that. So as you saw, what Emma has produced is, and we will let everybody get a copy of this. We'll put it on the website. Is we've picked a few of the propositions that we feel has some impact on people with disabilities, and we talk about what people say who are for it say about it, who are against it say about it, and then what it might mean for the disability community. All right, so we had a question in the chat that I wanted to ask everybody on here. Is how do these parents allow room for their children to have their own opinion, even if it differs from theirs? Even if they totally oppose the view that their child has, especially when the parents feel that the measure or the person is pushing an agenda that may be against our community. Personally, I don't feel that is any different if it's a person with a disability who has a different opinion from their parents than it is a person without a disability has a difference with their parents. It makes all of us parents completely unhappy. So that's no difference, and it shouldn't be any difference. The thing that I could say, and I want to ask other people their views, is that while we may, as a parent, be upset that our child has a very different view than we do, we shouldn't then take away that child's right to vote because they have a disability. We shouldn't say, well, see, my daughter with a disability, she's gone off the deep end on this issue, and that just shows you she has no good judgment. We would never say that about an adult without a disability who makes a different choice than we do. We may not be happy about it, but we certainly need to just let it be. So I'm wondering if Hector, Darlene, Suzanne has any views on this.
Hector.
Go ahead.
I did. That's actually not much of a question for me, because it really is. Remember, this is our vote, and we receive lots of information all the time from family members that advises us, the media, our friends. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're capable of making our own decisions. And the right to cast a vote is very personal, very private in some instances. And we're allowed to vote in every way that we want, based on the information that we have gotten, based on how we feel, based on how we vote. And that's a kind of a difficult thing for some people to grasp. But you know what? That's called democracy. And that's part of the system. That's actually how it works. And by ensuring sometimes that even as we support our peers or family members, that they vote in a way that we might not vote, that's actually kind of the part of the process. That's actually very much, the end result that we want to be able to do that. So.
Thank you, Hector.
I think I can add a thought here. and it could get dicey, of course, you know, depending on the dynamics of your family. But one option would be to, of course, have a conversation with your family about the fact that you don't agree. Another option would be to maybe find a different person and suggest that perhaps I need to have a different person as my support person through this voting process, because I want to really be able to express myself, and sometimes that hurts your feelings, mom or dad or brother or sister. And so maybe in this situation, I need to have a different person support me. So maybe, again, you're going to have to decide personally how far you can push that envelope and negotiate that as a family dynamic, but those might be some outcomes that you want to achieve.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Yeah, I mean, I would also want to make sure that this person understands exactly what is important to them, what is important to both of the candidates or elected officials that they're considering, and also to weigh, as I was talking to Marie, we were talking about things that were important to her, and that just like a life partner, you're never going to find the person that has, you know, you're not going to agree with everything the other person says. So as you're looking at a candidate, you're saying, okay, I may not like this, I may not like this, but I like this, and really weighing the different options. So a candidate may have some things you like and some things you don't like, but in the big picture, it may be more important to vote for that person, even though they have some things you don't like. So I think that came up for me in being a supporter. And, you know, of course, people are going to have different opinions, and that's it. But we do want to also make sure that they understand clearly what's important to them and what is important to the candidate or in the proposition that we're considering as well.
Thank you.
That conversation really helped and added a lot to Marie's perspective. So,
thank you. Emma?
Yeah, I say something really fast, is that I do believe that people without disabilities as well vote for candidates or vote for propositions that in the end are not going to benefit them, and they still have the right to vote for that person or that proposition.
Yes, people vote against their self-interest on a daily basis.
And this is Hector. We're allowed to make mistakes and learn from them. And the voting is very similarly. I know a lot of folks, disabled folks, that voted one way at the last election, and they realize the consequences of their votes. And from that, they are using that experience to vote, you know, differently, or to make different voting choices this election. It's part of the life process. Not all of us always vote for the right thing or the wrong thing, but we live with the consequences, and that's part of life, part of growing up, part of being part of society.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Emmanuel, what would you do if, Emmanuel Mulugeta, sorry, what would you do if Emmanuel has a different view than you do on an issue?
Yeah, he did this morning. Yeah, I was telling you that, you know, I was just asking him about presidents, and the thing what he told me is different than the thing what I'm thinking. So I respect that, but the thing is, the knowledge he has is the knowledge we have on the paper. It's not, he is not bringing all the thing what's happening around to his life. So I think it's my duty to enforce that thing, especially the developmental stage matters. With Emmanuel, most probably I might be more involved in a decision making than the other kids who can just, you know, have some input on the votes they are doing. So most probably I'm going to more involved on that. And, you know, I will be very, very comfortable with the vote he's doing.
That's great. Thanks, Mulugeta.
You know, it makes me think about my own kids my kids who are verbal and who don't have a disability, and they're young adults, and they're voting, and they don't vote like I would vote on some things because of the way they live their lives. And it makes me cringe as a mom. But I have to just step back and say, okay, I don't know how that's going to go for us if your idea wins. But you know, I have to remind myself that they're at a, like you're saying, at a different developmental stage in their life as an adult in this community called the United States, and the idea of democracy. And so, you know, I remind them about, well, when I was younger, this happened, and now this doesn't happen because of this, and so that's what this is about. But it's hard for them to apply it. And I know that in 15 years, they'll probably think differently. But for right now, they are on the other side on some of these issues. And I just have to step away and let them do their thing, like Hector's saying.
So we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask a final question for all of you to answer, because we're going to be in a few weeks having a whole webinar on this, but not within the context of supported decision making. And that is that it is clear, and Marie, you may not even know this, but it is clear to a lot of people that we're unlikely to have an answer, at least on the presidential race and maybe on some other stuff, but talking just about the presidential race, we may not have an answer on election night. And a lot of us are kind of accustomed to that, knowing, okay, well, polls closed around the country, who's the winner? We may not have an answer. This is a very different election this year for many reasons, but a big reason is because the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has made it so that many people who would normally show up on the day of the election to vote are now sending in a mail-in ballot. And in the state of California, everybody gets the chance to mail in a ballot. You don't have to ask for it. You will automatically receive a mail-in ballot. So how would you all recommend us talk to people with disabilities about the fact that we may not, number one, have an answer potentially for weeks, and number two, that the answer that comes, whether it's one way or the other, or either way, could cause protests in the streets, that we could see some really ugly things happening, and that things will feel very unsafe at times to people with disabilities. Or maybe some people with disabilities will want to be out there in the streets protesting, I'm not sure. But Hector, I hate to put you on the spot, but I want to start with you. Like, how do you think we talk about it in a way that gives comfort to people, but at the same time really is not like trying to pull the wool over their eyes, let them know the truth of what's going on?
You know, this is Hector. I'm very thankful that I live in the state of California, where I know I'll be perhaps more confident in the results, and I know that I might be safer than some other people might be feeling right now. And I always know that things get harder and scarier before they're gonna get better. And I think that's how all of us are feeling right now. And this country has gone through so much transformative issues for the better. And I speak as somebody whose people are still trying to survive. All of you here, enacting your democracy with us or on us. And I think it's important to start planning for that in terms of comfort and support and just awareness. Know that this is, we expect, if there's something that we've learned from COVID is that we don't waste time and we prepared if we know something might happen. And I think that's kind of the approach that we do it right now. We talk to our neighbors and our families. We stay connected to our staff and to our communities, and know that we're going through a transformational change that I know will be for the better of all of us. And we have to have faith that we will be able to use the tools of democracy to kind of, I'm trying to be nonpartisan, to really be, we will definitely see some benefits for the disability community, but we have to really kind of watch out for each other as a community. And that actually means everybody, because we are an overarching community, and know that know that there are going to be people who disagree on either side, and know that there's going to be people that are going to fight with each other. But I was reminded by a quote, I think it was by Mr. Dr. King, when he said that the sound of protest is the voice of those who have been silenced or who are never heard. And I think, we have been through so many protests, in the past 4 years, constant protests for a reason. And I will not hesitate to support in whatever way I can, the advance of democracy, whether I'm doing it from home with my family, whether I'm doing it holding a sign, or handing out hand sanitizers or masks for our peers in the community, like I've done while out there, because this is part of democracy. What an amazing time to be able to vote and be part of this. This is probably what I always wondered, what people in history books were going through while history was happening. So I think knowing that we are part of something so much bigger than ourselves is really, really important, and it's something that I'm going to work really hard to hold on to, because I know that's what's kept me going, through COVID and all that stuff. And this past years, knowing that we're not alone. We're so fortunate to be in California, and just knowing that there's so many other people out there that I can count as community. And that's the best that I can do. That's the best that I can do for my community and my family. And we do that every morning when we wake up. We have no idea how the day is going to be. We have no idea how the day is going to be. And we just get out and we make a purpose, even if it's just to get out of bed. And I think in this case, making sure that we get our vote cast and that it's counted is part of that. And we just go, and we're part of the community. And so I'm really glad that our disability community is so involved, like never, ever, ever before in the history of this country. And I would want to say the history of the world. The disability vote is not necessarily just going to be the swing vote. It's going to be the winning vote for this election. So I'm really, really glad that even while people were marching out there, we had disabled people marching out there in wheelchairs and canes and with their assistive device. We had people from consumers from regional centers with their staff, out there making sure that they were part of this democracy. And so that's what makes me really, really excited. And I have to hold on to that and kind of really not focus on the other part, that worries me and keeps me up at night. This is what comforts me.
Thank you. Amazing.
Judy.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Mulugeta.
Yeah, I want to bring a couple of things. One of the things is I want to share my experience while I was in Jacuzzi at the YMCA in Westchester. And I met a mom. Her son is something like 30-something. And, we start conversation. And the thing what she told me at the time was really, really interesting. I want to share with you guys, because she told us that some years back when she was trying to bring her son to YMCA, it was very, very hard for even people to just allow him to be a part of it. And they were fighting, especially mom and dad started fighting and created a situation where when we go to YMCA, the YMCA workers give Emmanuel training, and they allowed us to get into the job without any problem. So sometimes you will take everything for granted, and you don't understand the people, the struggle, the thing what they do behind all the rights and all the achievement what we have. So we have to just do our part, because because of those moms, we had a chance to go to YMCA and be as equal as anybody else. So I want you guys to take this thing for and be a part of this vote. The second thing is it possible for the community to go out and show force? I don't know about COVID and demonstration. Is there any way of showing that there are 4 million people, and you guys have to watch out when they are considering our cases, Julie?
That is really interesting idea that I haven't really thought about before. I mean, Hector, you've probably been at your fair share of protests, and you know, I'm wondering if if there is any consideration made for people with disabilities at the protests. I'm not so sure.
This is Hector. You could definitely be part of the movement, but realize that it's a wave of human emotion, like that is very tumultuous. And oftentimes, you know, there's even while there's there for people who are peacefully protesting, we have seen over and over, oftentimes being people out there who necessarily are not there for the same actions, and it might change the tone. It most often it does. So, but I mean, we have seen a variety of different things. In like here in LA, we've had people go as groups. It's always good to go as group. Actually, go as groups whenever you can, because not only are you able to really share the message, and you're bringing more of a visibility awareness, but you're also preparing for anything that could happen, whether it be that you need to leave, whether it be you know, that you are able to really ensure for each other's safety. An example of one of the situations when we were having some of the recent protests here in LA County, we had some individuals who had law enforcement and their families, and they took time off to help their family members go protest, even though their peers were controlling the crowds. And that was kind of interesting, because we have seen, and I want to be very clear, we have seen many disabled people get injured, severely injured at these events. You know, from a variety, from people getting shot with repellents, sometimes the smoke when they do deploy, when things get dangerous and they deploy smoke or some of the noxious fumes, and that burns sometimes. Having been there, I don't do it anymore because I had it, experienced it. But then sometimes you'll be in situations where transportation shuts off and you're stranded. There'll be no access to cars, no, you won't be able. So you have to sometimes think in that way. I've had some people that like a group, and they reserve like a hotel room in the area for you know, just to go back in case there's an emergency. So you could do it, definitely do it together as a group, plan for it, think of every possible scenario. But it's a very interesting thing to see people with disabilities there, you know, because I'm 45 years old, and I still remember the day when all of us with disabilities were locked up away in institutions and we're not part of society. And to see us on the streets, it changes you completely, because you see society in its full form. And that means that even us with disabilities out there are able to get heard while expressing our views. But it's better than not being given that chance.
Yeah, thank you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Others on this, Suzanne?
Yeah, I am a very passionate advocate. That's what I do for a living, and my kids know that. I stand up for people like them that need support and need help. And I remember feeling alone a lot. Like people would say, why are you always fighting? And I'm like, I'm not fighting against, I'm fighting for. And so when I see people going down the street, I go, wow, look at all those advocates, you know, all those people who care so much about what's happening in this country. And it's a joy having, you know, advocates. We work in these little silos. Now, everyone's an advocate. I see so many people caring so deeply about what's happening, and I'm proud of that. And I think if we give them examples of like Judy Heumann and how we got the Americans with Disability Act, and they got out of their wheelchairs and they were crawling up the steps, and you know, that's how my children have some of the services and rights that they have now. So, and to explain that, you know, people in the 60s, we used to have segregated schools, and now we're all together. And these are like some examples we can give to them. And I think in terms of how long it takes, it's just a matter of having like a calendar and a routine and marking off the days and saying, we think it's going to take a couple of months. It might take till January and do that. But yeah, they know what I do, and I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of people who stand up for what they believe in. So that's what I want to teach my children.
Thank you. I want to give a couple comments that have been written in both the chat and the Q&A from an amazing mom, Christina Canarella, who first of all, just on this subject, was saying that she's heard of people in Oakland who did caravan protests in their cars, something we could do collectively to keep us safer from COVID. I can tell you that down here in Los Angeles, that was really common in the Black Lives Matters protests, that we saw people who didn't feel like they could show up in person. So they would drive their cars up and down where the people were standing protesting. They would drive their cars up and honk their horns in solidarity. So, so that's great. But Christina also mentioned in the Q&A, she wanted to thank Hector for bringing up the issue of voting information being made in plain language under the Americans with Disabilities Act, where it actually has a requirement called effective communication. And it covers entities that must provide aids and services when needed to communicate effectively with people who have communication disabilities. The key to deciding what aid or service is needed is to communicate effectively, is to cover the nature, length, complexity, and the context of communication, as well as the person's normal method of communication. And she talks about that this is a critical issue because so many people view the ADA as mainly providing services for physical access. But as our DD community becomes more and more vocal and standing up for our human rights, we need to make sure when people think of accessibility, it includes the supports and services people with IDD and developmental disabilities need, so we can ensure our community's access and civil rights. And then that's absolutely true. You know, we need to, actually, we have a project at Disability Voices United where we talk a lot about communication access and the right to communication access. And we encourage you to go to our website, disabilityvoicesunited.org, disabilityvoicesunited.org, and search under issues. We have issues, we have a lot of materials on communication access as well as on supported decision-making on our website. So we encourage you to go there. So I just want to thank everybody. This was an amazing panel, amazing. We are going to post the recording of this on our YouTube channel, on Disability Vote California's website, and we're actually going to expand our website to include voting at DVU. If I could just have a few minutes to have some time. Emmanuel, I want to say thank you so much. Your song was amazing. Your speech was amazing. And we are so excited that you are voting. Could you do me a favor, Emmanuel and Marie? Could you take a picture of me? Not me, a picture of you with your I voted sticker on it? I would love a selfie of you, okay?
After you vote, you get a sticker, Marie, that says I voted.
Yeah, after you vote, you get a sticker that it kind of looks like this. I voted, okay?
I did it.
I want to get a picture of you guys and we'll post it on our website. I also want to remind all of our viewers that we are having 2 more webinars this week, very different than this one. They are candidate forums, and they allows us as a disability community to have a conversation directly with people running for office. The first one is this Friday at 12 p.m. and it is with Senator Holly Mitchell, who is currently a state senator, but she is running for the LA County Board of Supervisors, which is a huge job, has about 2 million people in her district, including Emmanuel. Emmanuel will have a chance to vote for Holly Mitchell. And that will be Friday, October 2nd from 12 to 1. Later on that day, we're having a conversation from 3 to 4 with Lenira Murphy, who is a candidate for the 46th California Assembly District, which is the San Fernando Valley. If you would like to ask any questions of her, you can get on that webinar as well. Plus next week, we're having one more. And we're going to have lots more, by the way, but we're having one more on Tuesday, October 6th from 1 to 2 p.m. with Assembly Member Nazarian, who is running against Lenira Murphy. And he is currently the incumbent. He is currently the Assembly Member for the 46th District in the San Fernando Valley. And so we'll get a chance to hear both candidates for that position, and you will be able to make a decision if you vote in the San Fernando Valley. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Emma and Suzanne and Marie and Hector and Darlene
Thank you.
and Emmanuel and Mulugeta for joining us today. It was a fantastic webinar. I loved it. I want to thank Ed
Thank you,
Herzl,
Judy.
our program assistant, and Lorna Silva, our wonderful, reliable, amazing interpreter. So thank you all, and please stay safe out there, and we hope to see you on Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.